I've been a professional photographer for 20 years now. I survived the 2008 housing market crash, the smartphone revolution, and now AI. And here's what nobody's telling you about starting a photography business in 2025. It's not dying. It's simply transforming. And if you understand what's really happening, now might be the perfect time to start a photography business. Here's what I'm not going to tell you. I'm not here to sell you a dream. I won't tell you that it's easy, and I'm not going to ignore the real challenges. Here's what I will tell you. I'll lead with my experience. I started with weddings. The 2008 housing market crash hit and wedding budgets dropped substantially. I pivoted a bit to real estate photography, started offering hybrid photo and video packages, but my biggest mistake was that I never made photography my main thing. It was always secondary to everything else that I was doing. Here's a key point. Everyone knows someone with a camera. You need to be the one they know and trust, and that takes consistent attention. Here's the market reality, what the data actually shows. You've probably heard that photography is dying, smartphones killed it, and AI is finishing the job. That's simply not true. Here's what's actually happening. Global photography services market is $55.6 billion in 2023, and by 2032, it's projected to hit $81.83 billion. That's a growth rate at somewhere between 4.5% to 4.8% annually. The US market specifically, $15.8 billion in 2025, growing at a 5.8 to 6.4% annual. So it's even growing faster here in the United States. Let's talk about photography employment. That's projected to grow 4% from 2022 to 2032. 291,966 people employed in photography businesses as of 2025. Fewer photography businesses closed in 2024 versus previous years. More new businesses opened, especially in client-based photography. So here's the truth. The industry isn't dying, it's evolving. And that is what creates opportunity. So let's talk about the segments of photography that's actually growing. Wedding photography is still strong. Here are the stats. $23.36 billion in 2024 and projected to hit $43.6 billion by 2033, growing at 8.24% annually. North America, that's $3.5 billion, projected to hit $5.2 billion by 2033. So my experience of growth through the years as a photographer is that yes, 2008 hurt wedding budgets, but weddings never stopped happening. People were still getting married. They still want beautiful documentation. The photographers who adapted, like I did with hybrid packages, survived and thrived during that time. Real estate photography is booming, especially as the housing market continues to change with interest rates and all the things that are up in the air right now. In 2024, it was $2.4 billion. By 2035, it will about double to $4.5 billion. So that's growing at almost 6% annually. Properties with clearly professional photos get 47% more online views and up to 39% more inquiries. And that matters, especially as you can offer things like video walkthroughs, aerial photography, 3D virtual tours, which jumped from 6% to 12% just in the last year. Because I'd already been doing a little bit of that prior to 2008, and all these houses were flooding onto the market as people were trying to avoid foreclosure and sell before they lost even more money. I was able to photograph tons of houses, and that kept me afloat while wedding budgets were dwindling. E-commerce and product photography have seen explosive growth, and even though you could do a little bit with AI here as far as finishing your product photos or putting them into neat environments, you still need quality photos of your product. Product photography services are $870 million in 2025, and that's expected to be $1.78 billion by 2033, growing at 11.1% annually. Think about everything that's been moving online over the years. Companies with products, especially those that can be shipped, are moving to platforms like Shopify, and high quality photos of those products really matter. Online retail was a $4.9 trillion industry in 2021, and it jumped to $7.4 trillion here in 2025. That's massive growth. 75% of online shoppers say product photos are crucial. High quality product photos boost conversion rates by 30%. And as someone who also does website design and online marketing, and I could speak from actual experience here, being that I also build websites and do online marketing, the clients of mine that have invested in high quality photos of their products, have higher conversion rates, and make more sales, hands down. It'll become more and more important that you're able to convey the quality of your products or services online, especially as AI handles questions and answers within its own platform and only sends people out to the actual website when necessary. So the better quality content that you can have AI pulling in and displaying, the better experience for the potential customer. Food photography is another one that is important and hard to replicate by AI. There are over 750,000 restaurants in the US. 77% of consumers check restaurant websites before ordering, and restaurants that are utilizing tools like DoorDash that have high quality images of their food see much higher conversion and order rates than those that are using generic or low quality images. Event and corporate photography is changing. Obviously, lots of companies are using AI generated images, but companies that really understand their customer and want to speak authentically to their customer are hiring photographers to capture authentic images that are unique to their individual company. Businesses want candid storytelling, not stage shot. And you can also help them by creating short form content that can go alongside those still images, because social media platforms are not going anywhere. There are also other areas of photography that are continuing to grow, such as aerial, like drone photography, or 360-degree content for VR. So here are some challenges that you need to be aware of. Obviously, with smartphones in everybody's pocket, that is a form of competition. 92.5% of all images now captured are on smartphones. That's insane. And that has compressed the pricing for basic photo shoots and reduced the demand for commodity type photography. But here's the truth. Smartphones democratized photography. That's real. But they can't replace expertise, specialized equipment, and artistic vision. That's something that you bring as the photographer. The photographers that are struggling right now are the ones that can only offer something that a smartphone can do. The ones thriving offer what they can't. Let's talk about AI's impact. AI is definitely affecting photography in the area of product shots, because you can take a regular image of a product and AI can create multiple different scenarios in which your product is in use. And AI can do this at scale, faster, and definitely cheaper. AI's had a big effect on fashion campaigns, definitely stock photography, and advertising. But there are a lot of photography areas in which AI simply can't compete. And that's with weddings, events, portrait sessions, documentary work, real estate, and food photography. There's critical distinctions here, such as the fact that AI can't photograph a chef's signature dish for a restaurant. It can't capture your actual wedding day. It can't shoot the interior of a home. AI creates synthetic images. Professionals capture reality, and that's not going away. So let's talk about the market for photographers. The reality is that getting into photography has never had a lower barrier to entry, and that means more competition. Many amateur photographers starting their own businesses price themselves really low, and that can make it hard to stand out. This is the area that I failed. I never made photography my main thing. I never consistently marketed, and I never built that network where I was the photographer people thought of. So don't make the mistake that I made. Here's the income reality for photographers. The median annual income for professional photographers is $33,000. That's not a lot, but can be a livable wage. But keep in mind, that's the median, where I believe that 75% of photographers are part-time or act as a part-time photographer, meaning that for someone who's going to take it serious and really work towards becoming a full-time photographer, there's a ton of upside available. Wedding photographers average between $40,000 and $100,000 plus per year. Commercial photographers are somewhere between $50,000 and $120,000 plus per year. It definitely varies dramatically by niche and how serious you take the business side of photography. So let's talk about what's going to make you succeed as a photographer in 2025 going into 2026. I firmly believe that diversification is going to be key for most photographers, especially if you're coming from having serviced an industry that is currently being affected by AI. Most photographers market themselves as one specific type of photographer. They might be a wedding photographer, but you look at the rest of their website and there's nothing else mentioned about any other types of photography. It's just weddings and engagements. Or you look at a real estate photographer and the real estate photographer doesn't have any other types of photography listed on their website. And while that helps people understand that that is maybe perhaps their specialty is that specific type of photography, if that industry is disrupted in any way, like like a housing market crash, then you're essentially resetting yourself at zero because nobody has any awareness of you offering that type of photography. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still value in having specialized experience. Those are photographers that focus specifically on a niche. They often command premium pricing because of that core focus, and they face less competition because they're known specifically for that single type of photography. So should you start a photography business in 2025 going into 2026? I would say yes, if you have specialized skills or a specific niche that you can start marketing to first. Yes, if you can commit to consistent marketing and networking. Yes, if you're willing to commit to operating like a business and not like a hobby. Yes, if you understand that it can start out as a side hustle and grow from there. And yes, if you're targeting growing segments such as real estate, e-commerce, events, weddings, like I talked about earlier in this video. I would suggest that you don't start a photography business if you only want to do commodity work that anybody else or AI could do. No, if you won't invest in building your business. No, if you're not willing to adapt as the market changes. And definitely no if you're expecting overnight success. Here's the beauty of professional photography. It can easily start out as a side hustle that becomes a full-time business, replacing your existing job or income. And that means you don't have to quit your job today or even tomorrow. Start it as a side business, but market yourself with full-time intentions. Build your client base, grow your income, and when it's generating enough revenue, the transition comes. Here's the right sequence to starting a photography side business. Start while employed elsewhere. Build your niche experience. Market consistently, not every now and then like I did. Grow your network and become the photographer that others think of. Diversify your offerings, track your numbers, and transition when income supports it. Here's a key insight. The market is transforming right now. AI is taking away all of the commodity work, and that's fine. Let them have it. That leaves the authentic, human, real-world photography to the rest of us. And that market is growing at 55 billion and climbing. So look, I made mistakes along the way. I wish I'd taken my photography business more serious and continued to market, not letting it play second fiddle to everything else that I was doing. There were definitely times in which I thought my skills were going to carry me, but that doesn't translate into people thinking of me as the photographer of choice when they need authentic images. So I created a free course called Starting a Photography Side Hustle, and in that course, it covers choosing your niche, setting up your business, pricing your work, marketing strategies that actually work, building a client base, and growing from side hustle to full-time. The link is in the description below. It's a completely free course, and it's exactly what I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. The photography industry isn't dying, but perhaps it's going through a similar transition that it went through when film was on its way out and digital was on its way in. The question isn't whether or not there's an opportunity in photography. The question is whether or not you'll take it serious enough to succeed. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and also check out the link in the description below, not only to the course, but to my Substack, because growing a photography business can be lonely at times, so let's do that together. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the course. Take care.